Okay, keeping family ties from pulling strings. This is a really important session because our families impact all of our relationships the rest of our days.
Very powerful.
So let me do this. I want you to listen carefully to something. You ready? I guarantee you somebody in your small group had to finish that, right? There's something within us that needs closure.
Right. Yeah, we're not comfortable with that lack of closure. In fact, finish it out.
I was going to do it again because we've got to get that. Right?
Thank
you all did it with me, probably, because there's just something, it creates anxiety in you when you don't have a sense of closure on things.
Unfinished business, those loose ends creates this anxiety in all of us, whether we realize it or not, come out of our families into all the other relationships in our life with some amount of unfinished business.
It's inevitable. It doesn't matter whether your family was in a lot of turmoil or it just had all kinds of blessings. It doesn't matter. You're going to have loose ends.
Exactly. And the truth is that from that point, every other relationship you create, you're working out whatever is unfinished business from your family.
To find closure on those loose ends that started in your home.
Exactly. And unfinished business is very preoccupying and draining. In fact, there was a fascinating study by a German psychologist named Kurt Lewin. He studied, really observed what goes on in restaurants. I don't know how many of you have ever worked as a waiter or a waitress, but he could interview any working waiter or waitress about any table in that room, and they could identify every single thing that was ordered at that table, every item, until the bill had been paid. And if he went back to them after that bill had been paid, they could remember absolutely nothing. Well,
because they had closure. It's time to move on.
And it is just so powerful. Your brain is preoccupied with that and holds on to it. And it really takes a lot of energy until you work through to closure.
In fact, even right now as we're talking, I want to challenge you to, in your workbook there, jot down a few loose ends, some personal unfinished business from the home that you grew up in.
Biggest challenge growing up with my family was about a couple years ago when I got saved. My family didn't go to church. My dad thought I was brainwashed. I was really close to my brothers, but they didn't really understand what was going on either, which is totally understandable. And so I just totally changed my life, and they didn't understand that. So I guess just reconciling those differences. Yeah.
Biggest challenge for me and my family is listening without defending. I have a hard time not talking back, especially when they have advice. But I'm slowly learning that they have wisdom and they know a lot more than I do, so might as well just take what they have to say to me and use it to my own benefit, but I'm still learning, definitely.
Whatever it might be, it doesn't have to be huge, but you just don't have closure.
Just any loose end, something that kind of really calls for your attention and keeps you from being fully present right now with somebody that you're talking with even in this current moment.
Exactly. That's one of the most powerful ties your family pulls in all of your relationships, unfinished business. But it's not the only one. There are lots of other dynamics in families.
Yeah, in fact, there's one that we call unspoken rules.
Yeah.
And these can almost be like your personal 10 commandments.
Well, and that's not because they're about moral things necessarily, but what you're saying is they are felt so deeply. It's almost like they're chiseled in stone somewhere inside of you. Your family has given you, without even sometimes intending to, some deep impressions about how life should be lived, how you're supposed to behave, and you carry those inside of you.
They didn't talk about them. They didn't say, well, we're going to have a rule about this or a rule about... You just kind of picked it up by almost osmosis just from being in that home.
And it can be about deep things like what should you become when, what should your career be? How do you develop talent? Or what does it mean to earn money? It can be about random things like what does it mean to be on time? Are you 5 minutes early, 15 minutes early, 20 minutes late, whatever, sometime today? Every one of us has all these unspoken rules that we carry with us into our other relationships.
How you express affection.
Huge one for us.
That was an issue that we had to work out because in your home it was really overly expressive.
Yeah, overly. No, it was perfect. No, it was just open and free. It was an affectionate environment. So I remember finding you in the college dining hall and just running up to greet you with a kiss, which was not,
I stiffen up because like, hey man, all my buddies are here, like relax, But
different unspoken rules.
Yeah. Now it's also not just unspoken rules, but unconscious roles.
Right.
Now, have you ever thought about this? These are the roles that we fall into without even thinking much about it.
Yeah, because our family somehow has needed us to play a certain part in life. And maybe you know what your part is. Some of us know, look, I'm the comedian in my family. I always bring the comic relief when things get crazy. They depend on me for that. Or maybe you're the mediator and you bring peace whenever there's conflict. Or maybe it's fallen to you to be the superstar and you give the family, the mom and dad or whoever something to be proud of.
Right.
Or maybe it's the opposite and you're the black sheep and you kind of take care of the rebellious energy and distract everyone else from having to be the problem because you're the problem for everyone. Whatever your role is, you probably have an inkling at least what that is. And here's the power of that. If we get a role in our family, we tend to carry it with us into our other relationships.
Well, sometimes we have no idea what the role is. That's why we say they're unconscious. Right. We want to help you make them conscious.
Right.
Well, in fact, the best way to think of this, like I said at the top, is that your family, the home that you came from, was really your university of relationships, for good or for ill. Not because they deliberately taught you things about relationships, just because of the things that you picked up from them.
With having divorced parents, I think that arguing is a huge no-no for me, I guess you could say. Any really, really loud tone or just is a fighting tone to me. And so I never argue with people. I hate arguing and I hate hearing people argue.
Personally, being raised by my grandmother and then my dad being on the outskirts and then being with my stepmom, I can see how that's personally made me who I am. I can see why I act the way I do and why I have so many different characteristics that other people don't, living up in just a family with a mom and a dad and siblings. I'm open to other experiences and I'm more flexible because I'm used to being tossed around from parents to parents, although when I was little I didn't understand, and now I see that I can actually use that to my advantage and know how to work around in relationships later on down the road.
When it comes to my family, the biggest challenge for me is getting along with some of my family members. In the past couple of years, we've always fought over just the silliest of things. But recently, after the death of my grandmother, we've all sort of banded together and realized that all the silly stuff we fought over was just silliness, and we really need to stay strong, keep the family together. Because now that kind of the hierarchy of the family is gone, we're blood and we need to keep it together.
Imagine this. What if you could go back to your childhood home, the home that you grew up in? Can you picture it in your mind's eye? And you were to kind of take an emotional tour around that home. And, remember that conversation I had with Mom over here at the kitchen table early one morning? Or remember that thing that happened out here with Dad in the backyard and we had that conversation about such and such? Things would come back to you if you did that. And what if you were to walk up into the attic, up that wooden staircase or ladder or what have you, and you'd pull on the light switch, and you'd look around and you'd find all this memorabilia from your childhood. Can you imagine? And you'd find this old ball glove that you haven't seen for years, or maybe a doll house, or maybe a Scout's uniform, or whatever it might be. And then over in the corner, you discover this big dusty trunk that you've never seen before in your entire life, but it'd be kind of mysterious and intriguing. And you'd go over and kind of blow the dust off of it, and you'd notice on the side of it, it has this placard. And on it is engraved your name in capital letters, and underneath it says, Relationship Curriculum. Can you imagine? You'd open that thing up and find all these file folders of all the classes, the courses you took as a kid growing up about relationships. And I don't know what would be in there. Maybe you'd pull out a file folder and it says, here's a class you took on feelings we don't talk about in this family, Or maybe you pull out another one and it's a course called Advanced Blame Shifting and how to do it,
Easy A.
And you just discover all these different courses that you took. What would that be like? Talk about raising your level of awareness. Right. Well, unfortunately, you can't do that, but you can examine unfinished business, unspoken rules, and unconscious roles as you begin to look at how to keep family ties from pulling strings. Okay, guys, in this session, we want to point you to a really important exercise that can open your eyes. It's called Uncovering Unspoken Rules. And by the way, if you didn't have a chance last week to cover your small group insights profiles together, you may want to do that right now. But uncovering unspoken rules. This is a really important exercise, isn't it?
That's right. This is going to help you drill down to your family and the power it's had to shape your relationships. And it will give you context. It'll help you to answer questions like, what were men in my family, and what did it mean to be a success? And women are, and it really will guide you through an exercise that helps you get at how your family shaped you in ways you may not have ever been aware of.
Yeah, so if you haven't done so already, take just a few minutes to complete that exercise. It won't take long. You can do it right now in your small group. And then take a few minutes to explore that together. Learn from each other as you interact.